Think about the last time you bought a car. What was the experience like, or how did it make you feel? Or if you have yet to buy your first car, you'll probably spend time and effort thinking about this milestone, whether you buy it for mobility or for power, because once you're ready for that purchase, you want to make sure you get the best possible experience. And so today, we'll show you how one of the most popular luxury car makers can revolutionize, revamp, and revitalize its customer service. Good morning to our esteemed panel of judges. I am Hazel.
I'm Tiff.
I am John.
And I'm Bea.
We are from Team Ateneo de Manila University in the Philippines, here to show you how Porsche can advance in its race towards delivering top customer experience. So in the car industry, electric vehicles or EVs are on the rise because of increasing environmental awareness and lower long-term costs. Now, global sales for EVs actually tripled from 2.2 million in 2019 to 6.6 million in 2021. China and Hong Kong in particular show very promising growth, as China is one of the fastest growing EV markets with 3.4 million sales in 2021, accounting for over half the global total. Now, the demand for EVs is also growing in Hong Kong, with the government subsidizing purchases to support their goal of banning new gas cars by 2035. And so with this, we're seeing a 30 to 40% growth year on year in the Hong Kong EV fleet. So now let's dig deeper into a very recognized player, Porsche AG, a German automaker specializing in luxury sports cars and SUVs. Now, in 2019, they entered this growing EV space with their Taycan, an all-electric sports car that received highly positive feedback, as Porsche managed to deliver over 20,000 Taycans globally in 2020, the very year when the pandemic hit. So aside from the growing EV demand, we can attribute this feedback to Porsche's key strengths, including its high brand presence and reputation, its very strong dealer network, top engineering capabilities to produce reliable cars, and of course, their very loyal customer base of over 240,000 Porsche fans across 86 countries. Now, another key strength of Porsche is customer satisfaction. So in 2021, they topped the J.D. Power Automotive Performance, Execution, and Layout, or APL study, with a score of 882, which was higher than the premium brand average of 864. Now, digging deeper into Chinese car buyers, J.D. Power also found that luxury car buyers care heavily about the use of digital tools, while mass market buyers are more concerned about the test drive. Aside from this, they also found that the pre-visit discovery stage is becoming more important, as 62 of buyers can actually reject a brand while searching for information online or talking to dealers before a visit. And so with this, we see that Porsche has some room for improvement to boost customer satisfaction. Now we can take a look at the case of Paul Chan, who very excitedly ordered a Taycan model in Hong Kong but faced many disappointments along the way. So first, the Taycan was unavailable for the test drive, so he had to try out the Taycan 4S. Then when agreeing on specifications, Paul had to remind David about the OR. And after finalizing, he even had to call David repeatedly to confirm production and delivery were still on time. Later, when the car arrived, it actually came incomplete because of a shortage of parts. And to make it worse, the two specific add-ons that Paul requested were not included because of a dealer's oversight. So all throughout, no senior management had actually reached out to him to resolve the problem, so he could only talk to David about it. And so after more back and forth, Paul finally received his Taycan and thoroughly enjoyed the ride. But there's no denying that his experience was severely compromised because of all the disappointments. And unfortunately, Paul isn't the only customer who has had a bad experience. For instance, one user from the Taycan EV forum noted that they were actually forced to buy a dealership warranty that cost them an extra $9,000 in cash. Or another user from Renlist talked about how their dealer mentioned that their car needed work right after they brought it in for an inspection. And so now more than ever, customer experience is a top priority in the industry, because where car makers used to compete based on their engineering capabilities, the focus has now shifted to customer experience. Because by 2025, 45% of car buyers are expected to be millennials, and these people expect to have a one-to-one relationship with car brands. Aside from this, 46% actually said that they would switch to a better manufacturer if it delivered a better experience, and 47% would rethink buying from a brand if it failed to deliver them a relevant experience. And so all these point to the need to deliver elevated and high quality customer service. And so with that, we now face the main problem. How can Porsche AG put customer service in the driver's seat to ensure satisfaction at every touch point, from manufacturing to sales and beyond? So to tackle this problem further, let me pass the floor to Bea.
Thanks, Hazel. So we break down the problem into three issues. First, analyzing Porsche's customers. Next, understanding how customer service is affected through distribution. And finally, identifying how people affect satisfaction and finding ways to improve it. So let's understand the first issue on Porsche's buyers. And so we've identified three personas. First, the electric vehicle enthusiast. Next, the affluent elites who buy Porsche cars because of their luxury appeal. And finally, the proud patrons who are loyal customers. To understand them, we analyze them based on 4 points. First, a description of each persona, their characteristics, their motivations, and finally, their pain points about the purchase experience. And so first, we take a look at the young EV enthusiasts in orange. They focus on performance, style, tech features, and the environment. And as a result, they are motivated by finding eco-friendly cars at ideal prices. However, their pain point is not having a seamless buying experience. In the middle, we see the affluent elites, who are those that have inherited wealth and are not price sensitive. They are very motivated by social status, but their pain points in buying are having high quality and service demands. Finally, we have the proud patrons who are aware of Porsche's brand. They are motivated by car features, and because of this, their pain point in buying is not wanting or not getting the desired car model that they want. To them, customer service means first, experience for seamless buying. Next, excellent service to meet targets. And finally, having high expectations on getting what customers want when they want it. And these all point to a focus on customer experience. In the current model on the left, the dealer is the main touch point for customers. Ultimately, customer service rests in the hands of the dealer. However, not all dealers provide quality service, as we've seen with Paul Chan. As the majority of customer loyalty is dependent on dealers, we must question this traditional model and understand if it serves the needs of customers today. And so after analyzing the customer, we then move on to the next issue where we ask, how should Porsche improve its distribution to satisfy these customer needs? And here we provide two alternatives. First, a traditional setup, and next, a direct model. And then we assess them based on 4 criteria, namely how willing a dealer is, how feasible these plans are, the level of control for customer experience, and finally, how future-ready these are. But before we analyze each option, let's understand the differences between the options. In the traditional model, the manufacturer creates cars and sells them to the dealer, who then resells them to the consumer. The direct model rewrites the rules where consumers can buy directly from the manufacturer online or through dealers who act as agents. And then we analyze them by scoring them from 1 to 3, where 3 is the highest. In the first criteria of dealer buy-in, we see that traditional is more favorable because dealers do not have to change their business. As a result, traditional is more feasible than direct, which requires an understanding of how the model changes. However, this direct model wins in the last 2 criteria, customer experience and future readiness, for 2 reasons. First, Porsche can manage customer experience better since there is no middleman dealer. Second, consumer trends are rapidly changing. A direct model meets this need because the manufacturer contacts the consumer and can respond quickly. And so to satisfy a consumer's need, Porsche must use a direct sales model to first have a quicker response to consumers as many purchase online. Next, have improved interaction to create a seamless experience. And finally, use this opportunity to capture the growing market, especially in EV sales, to gain brand loyalty. And so finally, we move on to its people. Here we ask, how should Porsche manage its employees? We provide 3 alternatives. First, training and retaining people. Next, hiring new employees. And finally, strengthening the incentive scheme. And we use 3 criteria. First, the impact, how each of these would make on customer experience, how easy it is to implement, and finally, how sustainable these options are in the long run. And we rank these alternatives on a scale of 1 to 3, where 3 is the highest. For customer experience, training and retaining outshine other options because Porsche would increase the quality of each employee. However, the alternative has the lowest ease of implementation. And the second criteria, incentivizing people is the easiest because they need to redesign the benefits rather than spending to train and to hire. However, for the third criteria, training and retaining are the highest because this keeps and develops employees. In hiring, there is the risk of acquiring those who are not the right fit, while incentivizing is only a band-aid solution to employee management. And so to ensure customer satisfaction, Porsche should train and retain. First, it develops leaders with higher levels of ownership, responsibility, and productivity. And on the other, this option is more practical because it is cost-friendlier than spending on hiring. And so to recap, we've shown that first, Porsche's customers value experience, service, and brand expectations. Next, having a direct model adapts to these needs. And finally, they will be empowered through training and retaining the right people. But how do all these recommendations tie together? John will tell us more about this strategy.
Thank you, Bea. It is clear that Porsche customers are no ordinary customers. They're not just buying among the best vehicles in the market, they're buying into the Porsche brand and everything that it stands for. Hence, they deserve the best customer experience, the Porsche experience, one with no substitute. And we believe in the Porsche that leads the race in customer experience with exciting digital solutions. And to make this possible, we introduce you to the REV strategy, a 3-year plan where we revolutionize our customers' in-app experience from discovery to purchase to advocacy, revamp online, offline channels, and revitalize team capabilities through digital training and evaluation. Now, without further ado, let's jump into our first pillar. Simply put, Porsche systems today are either manual, new, or scattered. Let's take a look at Paul. He had 3 sets of specification because research is a manual and scattered process. The forms and contracts were also manual, communication channels were scattered, and there was no consolidated space to view his revisions. As for dealers like David, Porsche just launched a new integrated POS system, the Porsche One, in 2021. This equips salesmen, but can't we also connect buyers and manufacturers for greater transparency? For the Porsche community at large, we offer them too many apps, 7, 4 for vehicle exploration, and 3 for post-purchase. But what if I tell you that we can solve all these problems in one app? The Porsche Stuttgart app, the all-in-one app from discovery to purchase to advocacy. Discover seamlessly because our app integrates all our vehicle exploration tools in one place. On top of that, we offer digital content, such as live streams, 360-degree views, which are popular among car buyers, and ML curated reviews compiled from external sites. Just imagine if you can build a car, select the part, and gain access to intelligently curated reviews on that part to help you decide. Through this, we maximize the excitement and minimize the proposed changes of buyers like Paul. Next, purchase seamlessly. Rather than have buyers send changes to dealers who relay them to manufacturers, let's introduce transparency. The buyers, dealers, and manufacturers are all on the app. The buyer inputs order specifications on the app, subject to the other 2 parties' confirmation. Real-time updates, including photos when applicable, can be seen on the app. Now, behind the scenes, customer data can help dealers tailor the sales and after-sales experience. Through this, we ensure that all parties are aligned. Finally, advocate seamlessly. People who own sports cars love to show it on social media. So why don't we make this a part of the Porsche experience? Porsche owners can display their car collection and attach memorable photos to each vehicle on the app. This is where Porsche's post-purchase apps can be subsumed as features as well. Through this, Paul's post-purchase experience is not marked by a ton of sad contracts, but by officially adding the car to his collection and adding his first of many photos to it. The Stuttgart app takes the Porsche experience to new places, but how will we unlock our direct channels? Digital is key because while 96% of Chinese consumers plan to buy their next car online, 97% still see the dealer touchpoint as essential to their journey. At the same time, we need to stand out because just showing our new collections will not intrigue or impress today's Chinese consumers. Thus, we plan to accelerate Porsche's initial steps towards the direct-to-consumer space. Here's how the dealers as agent model works. You browse the web, you engage an agent who can answer your queries online or bring you to a physical test drive, much like a real estate agent. And then you make your purchase online delivered to a dealer near you. In response to this, the function of physical stores, and by these we mean the Porsche centers and pop-up stores like the Porsche Studios and the Porsche Now, will evolve to modern times. They will serve as venues for localized modern experiences, such as art galleries, fashion shows, brand collaborations, cafes, and billiards. Through this, we revamp our channels to deliver the modern Porsche experience. With the app and channel set, let's seal the deal by revitalizing team capabilities. Currently, training is done according to EU standards and involves cross-dealership assignments. Evaluation is done on manual forms. Now, digital training and evaluation will transform our workforce. By evaluating staff in the Stuttgart app, like how ride-hailing apps do it, we incentivize staff to do more. Based on feedback, we can even recommend training content in-app custom-tailored to employee needs. So, for example, based on Paul's feedback, David can get content on official receipts and communication, among others. Of course, physical training won't go away. A top-bottom mentorship program will build trust and accountability between employees like David and their bosses. Now, through this, we revitalize our team to meet the expectations of buyers like Paul. The training and the app will be launched in 2022, the online-offline channel initiatives in 2023, scaling the initiatives across Greater China and replicating them in other markets as well in 2024. Now, let's find out more about our impact and financials from Tiff. Tiff?
Thanks, John. So we know that Porsche has been doing well, having one of the highest sales growth rates in the luxury car market, driven by their Taycan model, their newest EV car, which experienced a 100% growth in sales volume. With this growth, revenues for the car manufacturer hit 33.1 billion euros for 2021. And these are the results of innovative designs and great customer experiences. In their biggest market, China, they were ranked number 1 in terms of appeal and number 2 in dealer attitude. But bad customer experiences can become a hurdle. Thus, we have proposed our REV strategy. This strategy will require an investment worth 27 million euros, about 7 million for a fully digital sales system with an integrated consumer app, another 7 million for designing the process and rolling these out for the new agency model, and finally, over 12 million for training sales personnel to deliver a consistently satisfactory customer experience. This is covered by their cash and is well below previous CapEx spends of about 1.5 billion euros. Through this, we expect increases in both sales volume and value. Studies show that with reduced costs, this can lead to a payback period of just 4 to 5 years for the agency model. If the average sales revenues from one car increases by just 1% and sales expenses decrease by 30%, as found in studies due to streamlined and digitized processes, return on sales could increase to 18%. But what about other stakeholders? For dealers, we've identified 4 benefits. First, an increase in overall sales due to better customer satisfaction and fixed pricing. The fixed pricing can also help reduce losses, as an analysis by Accenture shows that without this new model, discounts offered will likely increase by 30%, up to 2025, resulting in $600,000 lost each year for dealers. Third, we have cost reduction, as the new model offers streamlined sales process and increased digitalization. They no longer have to spend time negotiating with customers or talking to them only to have them leave and compare prices elsewhere. Finally, they now have a better capacity to focus on serving the customers as they act purely as agents. And of course, we cannot forget our customers, who we hope can experience the biggest gains from these changes. First, they will benefit. So now, the young EV enthusiast can easily get his stylish, eco-friendly car at ideal prices and find this seamlessly with price transparency. The affluent elites can have quality and speed all on one platform, and the proud patron can have peace of mind knowing he'll get exactly what he wants. And so we've seen just how big of an impact the REV strategy can make. But no strategy is without its risks. So we have identified 3. First, there may be regulations that act as hurdles to rolling out the new model, which is why we rolled it out slowly based on different regulatory landscapes. There is also the possibility of regulatory authorities suspecting these changes as anti-competitive. But we must note that despite decreases in intra-brand competition, inter-brand competition is still intense, and 77% of consumers say that they would prefer fixed pricing. Second, we may experience pushback from dealers as we roll out the new model, which is why Porsche will need to negotiate the commission rate and properly relay the many benefits of the new model. And finally, there may be supply chain issues which still delay sales and negatively impact the customer experience. And for this, we have increased the transparency of our processes and recommended real-time updates to avoid having customers getting frustrated with Porsche. So with all of this, what does Porsche's future look like? Let's talk to Hazel.
Thanks, Steph. So Porsche AG has already managed to build such a loyal network of customers with its top quality cars, its brand reputation, and engineering capabilities. And now we believe Porsche can take that extra step by revolutionizing the in-app experience, revamping the online to offline channels, and ultimately revitalizing team capabilities so they'll be better equipped to lead the race in customer experience. And they'll be doing this through different exciting digital solutions to inspire and excite their customers. Thank you very much for listening, and we now open the floor to questions.
Thank you for the presentation. It's a Q&A. We have 15 minutes. I'm ready.
Okay, good. Let me go.
Please go ahead.
Good. I think just need a little bit of clarification. So after listening to your presentation, I think what I hear very, very loudly and clearly is to change the dealership model, right? From dealership into direct sale, right? So how realistic do you think that can happen? And and the other thing is, I think I saw your financial analysis, but what would be the cost of this change? Because if you look at dealership, right, they are not just only selling car, right? They are also providing services, after sales services, maintenance, and all these. Who is going to invest in all these facilities, and what would be the cost?
Thank you for that question. So I guess to address your first point on the feasibility of shifting from a traditional dealership to the agency model, we actually see that in the car industry, many players, such as luxury players like Volkswagen and Volvo, have actually already started the shift towards the agency model because they also want to have that direct interaction with their customers. And as for the dealer side, we actually see that dealers themselves recognize the need to adapt to the changes in consumer needs. Because after the pandemic hit, many have already come to realize that they do want to have the benefits of having different online tools to help them in their purchasing journey. And so dealers themselves are quite open to this type of change, as they themselves know that they will have to adapt to these changes in order for them to survive.
Okay. And my follow-on question to that. Sorry, please go ahead.
Sorry, just to add as well for the cost, we've looked at other studies actually from consulting companies as well. And we've seen that the cost of changing to an agency model for about 200 dealerships would cost around 8 million euros. So we've adjusted this, of course, to fit our strategy. And we don't expect to roll out the agency model at all 900 sales partners all at once. So this is going to be gradual, maybe 100 to 200 dealers per year if this is possible. And of course, we'll need to take time to consider dealer buy-in as well as making sure that all the processes are smooth.
Anyone else in the team want to say anything? Okay, no. Then I'll move on to my next question. I think if I look at my pack, right? So one of the things that I think Porsche is actually performing poorly, compared with the other car makers, is the the relationship between manufacturer, brand owner, and dealer. What do you think is the root cause, and what is your proposal? To sort of improve this score.
So thank you for that question. So based on our analysis of the case, we have actually seen and identified the main problem between communications between the manufacturer, the customer, and then the dealer. The customer, as we've noticed in our consumer analysis, wants increased transparency and wants to meet their needs as quick as possible. And the responsibility for that one lies on the dealers. And then we see that the dealers are sandwiched between the consumers and the manufacturers, who may or may not have a steady supply of parts based on their existing inventory. And because of this, in our Stuttgart app, we propose a recommendation that links together all of these stakeholders, where the consumer can also directly talk to the manufacturer, whereas the manufacturer can also directly talk to the consumer depending on the needs and availability of the parts or the specifications that they need for the said car. And the dealer also benefits from this because they no longer have this pressure of from the customers regarding things that are not in their control, which lies in the hands ultimately of the manufacturer themselves.
Right. So to also add further to this, there are two ways that we can see this in the strategy. The first way is through the systems. The second way is through incentives as well. So for example, in the systems, when it comes to the purchase stage of the customer journey, we created a system within the app wherein the customer will be the one to select the specs there, and then it will be relayed to the other two parties, which are the dealer and the manufacturer. And these parties will give approval if these are available, if this is permitted. And then that's how the system is transparent, not just within the POS of the seller, but it's across all stakeholders here. At the same time, we can also look at it from an incentive standpoint. So by introducing the agency model, we can also work together with the app-based evaluation to be able to incentivize the dealers to perform well, so that when customers do choose to go for the direct model, they could assess the reviews for each dealer as well as the salespeople and choose which one he or she would like to take. So these are the two ways in which we are able to address this concern.
Okay, no further question for me for now.
I'll go here. So you mentioned an 8 million euro cost for transitioning from the dealership model to the agency-based model. Does it take into account the incremental cost of absorbing the, I remember you mentioning the training and retaining the people. So I take it you are planning on absorbing the dealership-based sales personnel into the own payroll of Porsche. So does it take into account the additional per person payroll cost? Because of course it should be costing more if the persons are directly employed by the Porsche, and also the associated headquarter administrative and human resources cost of managing this huge pool of people that are suddenly going into the headcount.
So to clarify the model, we don't expect that all the salespersons at the dealerships will be taken under Porsche. Rather, the dealerships will still be working separately as separate entities from Porsche, but Porsche will be paying these dealerships a commission fee. And then the dealerships will be the ones to distribute this or pay salary or commission to their salespersons. However, we do expect to help subsidize some of the trainings of these salespersons at these dealers. And so we have allocated a budget to that. So actually this 8 million is divided into 3 different parts. The first would be training training personnel. So those are HR fees and related fees that may be related to hiring. The second part would be business process, so creating the design, the process implementation. And then the third would be the IT landscape, or all the tech that would be needed to implement this kind of model. So for the HR, actually, for this strategy, we've increased the budget for HR even more to make sure that we cover the personnel in the different sales partners, at least giving them a $500 budget per personnel with an average of 70 employees per dealership.
Okay, and I mentioned is a term of digital. I take it that you want to have a split balance between app experience, and also a key component of the Porsche experience is getting the test drives. So how are we going to make that fine balance, and does it end up reducing some of the physical costs or those components?
So one of the beauties of the agency model actually is it gives dealers less responsibility in terms of the sales and marketing process. Since Porsche will be taking over some part of it, such as the direct interactions or the actual purchases, this actually allows dealers to focus more on being the very physical touch point that they should be for the customers. And so that includes coordinating test drives or the vehicle pickups, or perhaps conducting in-person sales consultations. And so we believe that with the training that we'll be investing in, as well as the extra time that they now have to really accommodate customers, we're able to strike that balance between providing a very seamless experience from the app all the way to the in-person dealership experience that customers will have.
To add to that, it also has to do with reducing redundancy. So one, we are providing smarter information to them. And second, we're letting them do things online first before they go offline. For example, they can take advantage of a lot of our features wherein we can use AR, for example, to assess different options before they choose to take advantage of another feature of our app wherein we can call representatives to give us a physical test drive. So by doing this, we prevent also customers who keep changing their orders so that we can minimize that and reduce costs associated with that. However, this also enhances the consumer experience because we're letting them explore more. We're giving them exposure to a lot of Porsche communities, Porsche clubs, to get information that they might have difficulties finding if they were to do so outside our app as well.
Thanks. No further questions for now.
I have one more question for you here. So, specifically in the case of Paul, right? What would you do to one, restore his trust, and two, make sure that he get over this painful kind of journey and continue to be Porsche customer in the future?
So we believe that the first step would be to actually reach out to him and talk about his whole situation in detail. Because as we saw in his situation, what happened was he was contacted by a customer service representative, but that was only to perform their standard protocol of having the feedback after 30 days of their purchase. And so what we want to do is, after realizing that he actually had an extremely disappointing experience, we want to talk to him in detail and really talk about what he felt like during the experience, what he felt was the most disappointing, and how he feels like we can improve. Because from then, we're able to get a better, overview of our customer, of their motivations and their interests. And from there, we'd be able to come up with a more applicable solution that addresses his need and shows him that we actually care for what he feels when buying from our brand, and that we really want to improve that customer experience.
At the same time, a beauty of our app and the physical events that we're going to do is that we can use the data collected here to actually implement changes within our service and after-sales service. So for example, we know that there's this cluster of consumers, Paul included, who had a really terrible experience before. Based on that, we can ensure that their next experience is improved by assigning a higher rated individuals or salespeople, after-sales people as well, to them. So based on that, we can actually adjust also the people that we assign to these individuals based on other algorithms that we might want to implement so that we can ensure that their experience gets better every time.
All right, good. So how are we doing on time? Sorry.
I think we have 2 minutes, 40 seconds left. So almost 3 minutes.
Any more questions from the other Josh? If not, I haven't. I may have a lot of questions. So, but looking at the whole scheme of thing, right? In this, business case, what do you think is the real root cause of all these issues?
Well, from this case, we've identified that Paul, and in his experience specifically, was not satisfied because of how the dealer was able to treat him and how the experience was for Paul. And as Hazel mentioned earlier, Paul is just one of the many customers who also have the same experience of not being satisfied by the timeliness, speed, and the transparency provided by the dealers on how they would be able to service and provide the cars that they would be buying from Porsche. And as a result, the main problem that we've identified really is how to serve and put these customer needs in the front seat so that regardless of what customer they are, whether they are a young EV enthusiast, a proud patron, or an affluent elite that we've identified in our analysis, whoever they may be, they may still be satisfied with what the customer experience will be from Porsche. And that's why we introduced the Porsche Stuttgart app, while also training and developing the people who will be the direct points of contact for our customers in an agency model.
And just to add to that as well, with putting the customer in the driver's seat, what we wanted to do was really make sure that all of these processes and training for these dealers are structured and very clear for them, because they're going to be the face of Porsche when we meet these consumers or these customers. So ensuring that they have a streamlined process, that it's easier for them to relay everything to the manufacturer, that they know exactly what kind of issues they should escalate to their manager, and what kind of offers they should make to the customers is going to be a key part of our strategy and a key part of making sure they implement this and avoid any mistakes in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very
heard
much.
Mr. Puchara
Thank
said
you.
Thank you very much, team and the judges, for the great Q&A. I will ask the judge to stay in the room for deliberation. And the dear team, we will place you in the waiting room, and we will be feedback session in around 3 minutes.